Ladies and gentlemen, we are live! It's time!
Welcome everyone to the Big Sports JEDI Network. I'm a weekly of Austin and Chef Dan. I am Austin, one half of the co-host. How you doing? How you doing today, Chef Dan?
I'm doing good, man. Doing very well. Excited to be here. Haven't been here in a while. Salute to everyone in the chat. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Yeah, and thank you everyone for joining us. Whether you're watching us at YouTube, Rumble, or listening to us on the podcasting platforms, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Appreciate the love, support you guys give us. And well, we're here to preview a UFC review from the first show in Australia in about 3.5 years, right? Yeah, 3.5 years.
I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, it was Israel. Yeah, it was Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker last time they were in Australia, and we got UFC's back with a lightweight championship fight in the main event between Islam Makhachev and Alexander Volkanovski. As Alexander Volkanovski goes up in weight to try to become a two division champion simultaneously, and in the co-main event you got the interim featherweight title between Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. So let's start with the main event, Islam versus Alexander Volkanovski. Islam Makhachev defended the belt for the first time against Alexander Volkanovski, who really had no one. There was really no one from the fight at featherweight, so this fight does make sense to provoke to go up and try to a two-weight division champion simultaneously. And also, it's a rare time in UFC history that the only time I can recall where the pound-for-pound number one fighter fights the number two pound-for-pound fighter in UFC. As Islam's the number two pound-for-pound fighter, and Alexander Volkanovski is the pound-for-pound number one fighter in the UFC rankings. So history is being made in this main event, and it's a big fight. I'm excited for it. And what are your thoughts on this fight, Chef Dan?
Like you said, it's a big fight in and of itself. As far as UFC knows, it's the 30th anniversary. As far as these two, there isn't a set opponent for Islam yet, and things still have to clear themselves out in the featherweight division for Volkanovski. So this is essentially the only fight to be made, and it's a great fight. I'm looking forward to it as it's completely two different type of styles of clashing.
It is. I mean, I know Islam comes from Dagestan, the Team Habib camp with the wrestling and all that, and you have to take guys down and use the wrestling to win fights. Whereas Volkanovski comes from city kickboxing, and I know he has two gyms, city kickboxing. I forget the other one, where they're known for their striking, very elite striking too. Just like Islam has the elite grappling, wrestling from Dagestan. So it's two style clashes. Although Islam does have striking and has used in his fights to win fights, and also Volk has been Volk has been working on his wrestling, working on his grappling, and he even mentioned in his interview with Daniel Cormier with Islam that he was an Australian national wrestling champion, although Islam did dismiss it, but still they have other skill sets, as I'm trying to say, with these two. And one thing about this fight that I am interested to see is how much speed advantage does Volkanovski have versus Islam, especially in the early rounds. Because I do think with Volkanovski going up in weight and being the somewhat smaller guy and also fighting a lower weight class, I think he will have a speed advantage. I do wonder how much that's going to play a factor, especially in the early rounds. The speed advantage will make it harder for Islam to get a hold of him. Will make it easier for Volk to move in and hit Islam and get out of the way. I think that's something that I think you got to take a look at. Is if does Volk have a speed advantage? I mean, do you agree with me there about that possibility?
I mean, there is, but there's also a possibility of Islam Makhachev's pressure being something that Alexander Volkanovski's never really had to face. A lot of the guys in the featherweight division, they're not Islam Makhachev, and they don't really. It hasn't really been a featherweight competitor that I've seen that provides that pressure with the grappling that Islam does. So as much as that speed's a factor, I think Islam's pressure is a factor as well.
That's true. Yeah, it's true. No one in the featherweight division has that pressure Islam has, or even the grappling that Islam has. So it's interesting to see. And yeah, my prediction of this fight, I think Islam will win. I think he'll win. If he does finish Volk, it'll be the later rounds. I don't see him finishing early. Probably like a 4th or 5th round stoppage. If he does finish Volkanovski, like I said, I think he's obviously the pressure of Islam and also being bigger and having that wrestling that Volk has not really dealt with. I think it'd be too much for Volkanovski. And even though I mentioned the speed advantage Volk might have in the early rounds, I'm not sure if Volk's gonna have that for the entire fight, especially as the fight keeps going, Islam keeps going after Volkanovski. Eventually he's gonna get Volk, and I think he will take down Volk. And then from there, Volk's in a world of trouble. I think he will do some damage to Volkanovski once he gets a hold of him and takes him down. And I think, like I said, if he does finish Volk, it'll be a late round stoppage, but it could also be a decision where Volkanovski wins. I mean, not Volkanovski. Islam wins via like 49-46 type of deal, where maybe Volk wins one of the rounds, but Islam dominates the final last 3 rounds of the fight. That's just me. I think if Islam wins, it'll be a decision more likely, or a late fight stoppage. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it could be that. I agree with you on the part that when Islam finally gets his hands on Volk, it's going to change things. But as for when the timing is, I'd say I don't really know, but that's what we'll see on Saturday as the fight plays out.
Yeah, we'll see, and it's gonna be a great main event for that crowd in Australia. UFC always does good cards and pay-per-view cards in Australia. It's always been one of the better markets. As we can transition from the main event to the co-main event, which does involve Alexander Volkanovski indirectly, because the winner of the co-main event is Brian Volkanovski next, regardless if he wins or loses the main event. It's the interim featherweight title fight between Yair Rodriguez and Josh Emmett. As Josh Emmett's coming off that victory over Calvin Kattar, controversial. I think he lost. And then Yair Rodriguez coming off that fight over the victory over Brian Ortega with that weird shoulder injury back in July. So both guys come off wins, although weird wins. And these were, unfortunately, I only got left out of this mix. You know, he is fighting Max Holloway in April, but still. And this is a good fight. Yair and Josh Emmett, 2 of the top featherweights in the world, fighting each other. And obviously the winners fight Volkanovski next. And it makes sense for this fight to be on this card, considering the same timeline as Volkanovski. So the timelines match up for when they do fight next. So in this case, I ain't picking Yair Rodriguez to win this fight. because I think Yair Rodriguez is just a more craftier stand-up guy, and I think he has more ways to win. And plus, I think he's looked better in his recent performances than Josh Emmett. I mentioned that I think Emmett lost the fight to Calvin Kattar. Also, the Dan Ige fight was super close too, and Dan Ige, hasn't exactly, he's a good fighter, but he's not exactly in the top 10 of the featherweight division. And I feel like Emmett has not looked as impressive in his recent performances as Yair. He lost the Holloway fight. Yair still did very well in that Holloway fight. Holloway used a lot of grappling to win that fight. And also, even the Ortega fight. I know the Ortega fight ended with a shoulder injury, but before the shoulder injury, Yair was doing well striking-wise against Ortega prior to that injury ending the fight. And I think Yair being younger and also looking more impressive in his fights, and I think him being the more craftier and striker, I can see that. I think I see him using his craftiness to give Emmett problems and causing Emmett to never get in a rhythm or get in a groove to where he could really hurt Yair. Josh does have decent good power, and if he catches Yair, it could really stun him. But I just don't see him doing that. And plus, I know Josh does have a wrestling background, but I haven't seen Josh use his wrestling in his fights in a while. I mean, I can't remember the last time Emmett used wrestling in the fights personally, so it's been a minute, and that's one reason why I'm leaning towards Yair, because I don't see Emmett using wrestling. I think in a striking matchup, Yair's just better, and he's looking more impressive, and I think Yair will beat Emmett in a decision, in my opinion, to be the interim featherweight title. That's just me.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. If there's another thing that kind of tips to just the icing on the cake, is that Josh Emmett isn't a guy that's known to be quite good defensively. He's more so known to take a shot and then try and deliver them back. And against a guy like Yair Rodriguez, that may not be the smartest plan, because if in the midst of you trying to strike back, this guy is an expert counter striker. He can give you one shot to put your lights up. So, yeah, like you said, I'm favoring Yair Rodriguez.
Yeah, I agree, and I mentioned decision, but I mean, Emmett has been finished, although, I think it was like once. That was back against Jeremy Stevenson like 5 years ago. So I mean, Emmett usually doesn't get finished, but at the same time, now I think about it, I can see Yair maybe finishing him potentially. Although I see decision, but at the same time, I won't be shocked with the finish with Yair and Emmett. And also, I do think the next featherweight matchup, I think we're both in agreement, Volk and Yair, somewhere down the road in the summertime or whatever, which would be a good fight. Good main event, cool main event for this pay-per-view card, as we can transition from that fight to the third fight in the card, which is in the welterweight division between Jack Della Maddalena and Randy Brown, as both guys come in on 4-fight win streaks in the UFC, as Jack Maddalena, I think, has finished all of his opponents in the UFC, or at least his last 3 for sure, as he had a very impressive 2022. Fought 3 times, won all 3 fights, and Randy Brown's on a 4-fight win streak. Last fought in October, again, decision victory over Francisco Trinaldo. And these are 2 guys who are surging, who are near the rankings. I mean, the winner of this fight could be ranked, potentially. I don't know if you agree with me there or not, Dan, about the winner of the fight being ranked, potentially.
I think it's more than that. They're probably going to get a big ranking. Both of these guys are fierce competitors. They've been skying for a while, and I think winner of this fight not only gets a ranking, but gets an opponent that gets them, like, maybe after that opponent, you get 2 fights and then the championship. So this is going to be exciting, because the welterweight division is looking for some new blood.
Yeah, I agree, it is. And these are 2 guys who could be that new blood. And me personally, I'm going with Jack Della Maddalena in this fight. I think Jack Della Maddalena is he looks more like he's looked more impressive. I know Randy Brown's looked very well, but I feel like a lot of these fights have, I feel like if Jack Della Maddalena had fought the guys that Randy Brown fought, he would have finished them personally. Especially someone like Trinaldo, who is older. I know Trinaldo's been around for a while, but he's an older guy, and Randy Brown getting a decision, but it's not exactly the greatest look. And also, I know Randy Brown's a long-ranging fighter, and that could give Jack some problems, but Jack does have good head movement and does throw body shots, which, going against someone who's a tall fighter for the weight class like Randy Brown is, I believe he's like 6'3", that could play. That could be that could definitely help Jack Della Maddalena out, going for body shots against someone as tall as Randy Brown, and that can open up Randy Brown's head to get hit. And we all know Jack Della Maddalena has that power to knock you out. And Randy Brown has been finished before. His last 2 losses were finishes, and very brutal knockouts too, by the way. So you can't get finished, especially if you got power like Jack does. And I think Jack Della Maddalena will finish Randy Brown personally. I think the body shots would be there for him to throw at Randy Brown, opening up for his head, and I think he will catch Randy Brown and put him away. That's just me. I think Jack Maddalena is a legit prospect in this welterweight division who will make noise in this division this upcoming year.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Randy Brown has been a very good opponent. I wouldn't sleep on Jack Della Maddalena though, because he's had some shocking finishes, but this all in all pretends to be fireworks. As we move on to the next fight on the card, it's a heavyweight fight between Justin Tafa and Parker Porter.
I'm going Justin Tafa. I think Justin Tafa, to me, I think he's like I don't know. I feel like I've been more impressed with him than Parker Porter. I know Parker Porter, I believe, was on a 3-fight win streak before losing his last fight to, I believe, Gelton Almeida, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say it was Gelton Almeida. I believe it was him that Parker Porter lost to his last fight.
Yeah.
It was? Okay, so not Justin Tafa, but Parker Porter is older. You know, it's the heavyweight division. Heavyweights tend to age better, but that's usually if you're like an elite heavyweight typically. And I think the fact that he's older and has been knocked out several times, and also Justin Tafa being a lot younger and also having heavy hands, I think it definitely plays in Justin Tafa's favor. I think he is gonna knock out Parker Porter somewhere in this fight. I think Justin Tafa is the better fighter at the moment, personally, and I think he will finish Parker Porter somewhere in this fight. I don't know first, second, but I'm going with Justin Tafa.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you there. Parker Porter hasn't looked good in the last couple of fights. Same thing with you, Justin Tafa.
Yeah. Plus, I didn't realize Parker Porter been fighting for a while. I looked at his record. I didn't realize that he fought back. He was fighting back in 08-09 against John Jones in light heavyweight. So, he's been around the block, Parker Porter, and I think Tafa is just better at the moment. But we could transition from that fight to hang on. Sorry about that. We transition to the first fight in the card, which is between Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield. Jimmy Crute returned after being gone for over a year. I didn't realize last fight was in late 2021. They took the rest of 2022 off. They took off 2022 off. Now he's returning against Alonzo Menifield, who Jimmy Crute's come out back-to-back losses to Anthony Smith, and I'm trying to remember his last fight he lost to. I think it was Jamal Hill. If I'm not mistaken, his last fight Jimmy Crute had.
Yeah, it was to Jamal Hill.
Yeah, he lost to the champ, so that loss isn't as bad. That loss looks better as Jamal Hill's now the light heavyweight champ, which is still shocking to say that he's the light heavyweight champ. I'm still kind of blown away, but still, he's going against Alonzo Menifield, who I believe is on the win streak, if I'm not mistaken. A 2-fight. I think he's got back-to-back knockout victories, if I'm not mistaken. Alonzo Menifield.
I don't know if they're back-to-back knockout victories, but I do know Alonzo Menifield has been upgrading his game ever since he stepped into the octagon, and we've seen a consistent growth from him, not only in just the striking, the patience, but also in the array of moves that he's showing, and in the 3 phases of MMA that he's evolving in the way that he's able to, just show those all 3 different phases. So now he's not a one style opponent. He can defeat you in multiple ways. He is one of those guys that's building himself up to be not only just a champion contender, but one of those mainstays in the division itself. So I'm excited for Alonzo Menifield. he's doing a lot, man. He's showing a lot, and I kind of have him favored for this matchup.
Yeah, I saw some like odds where Crute was the favorite, which is like a decent favorite too, which is like kind of surprising considering Crute has been away for over a year and also he's come off back-to-back losses. I know Crute's a lot younger than him. I know Crute's like what 27. I know Crute's like 35 and Crute's like 26 actually. Wow, Crute's a young. Crute's only 26. Wow. So I know the age factor does go in Crute's favor, but the fact he's been gone for a while and Minifield actually has improved. I think it'll be a lot more competitive this fight than some people think. And I think Minifield does have a chance because you mentioned the improvements he's been making in his recent fights, and I've checked it and I looked at it, and he has had back-to-back knockout victories on Minifield. And Crute was a guy who looked like a rising contender until that Anthony Smith fight where he had that leg injury back in April of 2021. And I don't know. It's possible Crute could turn around and start winning fights and become that and go up the rankings like we all expect him to prior to that Smith victory. But not the easiest fight to come back against Minifield personally. Plus, especially considering Crute likes to stand and trade. Usually, sometimes he doesn't. And going against someone like Minifield, it's not the smartest idea is to stand and try to like strike with someone like him, especially if you're a bigger guy. In Crute, where you may want to use wrestling to try to slow him down. And I don't know if Crute's going to use that. I haven't seen Crute use a lot of wrestling in his fights. I think it would be smart for him to try and mix it up, even if he doesn't do a lot of damage on top. But still, just give Minifield something to think about, to where it can cause Minifield to be a little bit more hesitant to throw shots. And if Crute does that, I can see him win the fight, but I don't know if he is going to. That's the question. I don't know what Jimmy Crute are getting after being gone for over a year. I'm leaning slightly Minifield in this fight, but I can see Crute winning potentially. But I think Minifield has a good chance of winning this fight. That's just me. I'm leaning towards him.
Yeah, we both have in agreement there. Minifield, he's been showing the evolution, so both have him favored for this matchup.
Yeah.
That's about it as far as on the main card. It's a 6-bout main card. Is there anything else you would like to address?
Oh yeah, I'd like to mention a fight look out of the prelims is the Tyson Pedro fight. Tyson Pedro which is the main event of the prelims. Tyson Pedro's fight on this in the main event of the prelims. He's had back-to-back knockout victories. He's a guy who took several years off. He's come back and he looks like a new fighter. Especially training state kickboxing now, and I believe he's training state kickboxing now. And this is a guy who I think if he continues showing improvements, it could be a factor in the light heavyweight division. And he's fighting Australia too, fighting his home nation. That's a fighter to watch out for. Tyson Pedro's fight in the prelims. Do want to give a shout out to him.
All right. So with that being said, this is a pretty action-packed card. Some good names, even on the preliminary series. Like you said, Tyson Pedro is on the preliminary series. We have Jamie Malarkey on the preliminary series, and even Luma Lubumi. So look out for a lot of good fights on the preliminary. As always, please check it out, and please tune in for that main card. It's going down this Saturday. Main card starts at 10 p.m. Preliminary start at 6 p.m.
Yeah, the UFC's back. The day before the Super Bowl, big pay-per-view. The day before the Super Bowl in Australia. So 10 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Eastern for the pay-per-view, and the prelims start at 6 p.m. Eastern. As we got a big UFC pay-per-view. Islam Volk. You can't number one versus number two. That says it all right there. Volk trying to be double champ. Islam defend the belt for the first time. They both got similar records too. Now I think about it, one loss. He's got like 20 plus victories. I forget their exact records, but great main event. Excited. How can you not be excited for that main event if you're an MMA fan? Really. And then the co-main event's a pretty exciting co-main event too, especially since the winner's going to fight Volkanovski next, regardless of what Volk does. So, yeah, can't wait for this card. And anything else you want to say before we wrap up the show, Dan?
No, that's it. Just awesome to be back on the show, talking MMA, talking with the fans. So thank you guys so much for supporting.
Thank you guys for supporting the channel and these videos. While you guys, this channel is nothing. While you guys appreciate love, support. I am Austin, Chef Dan. Have a good day, good night every time watching this, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are